this region. We recognize the historic policies of colonization, genocide, and assimilation that affected Indigenous and Native families, both past and present, and that will affect those in the future, and honor the resilience and revitalization of our Indigenous and Native communities. We pay our respects to the elders, both past and present, who have been the stewards of this land throughout the generations.
Thank you, Mitzi. The next item on the agenda is a review of the Budget Committee informational meetings, our informational meeting minutes of April 18th. Everyone should have a copy of those in the packet. I'll give us all a moment to review that. If anyone has anything of note to mention, please do so. Otherwise, in a few moments, we will go into the election of officers. Okay, we can move on to the election of officers for this year's Budget Committee. Now we need to determine who will chair the Budget Committee for this year. Would anyone like to make a nomination for chair? If you would like to do so, please raise your hand in order to make a nomination. Monica?
I'd like to nominate April Dobson as chair.
Do we have a second?
Second.
I second.
Seconded.
Nominations don't need to be seconded.
Oh. Okay, with no other nominations, I believe we can move to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 All right, I believe that carries. So thank you. Congratulations, April. You are the chair for the Budget Committee for 23-24. Your first official duty is now you have the opportunity to open for nominations of the vice chair. April, are you available?
Hi, guys.
Hi.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Okay, let's see here. All right, so we need to elect a vice chair for this budget committee for the year. Would anyone like to make a nomination?
I nominate Julie.
Okay. Are there any other nominations? Okay. Then I believe we can call for a vote.
Chair Dobson, if you would like, you could either call for a voice vote or we could read the roll call. And I'd be happy to read a roll call if that's preferred.
Sorry, guys, I missed that. I got disconnected temporarily.
April, we have a nomination on the floor for Julie Scarpel for the vice chair. And you could call for a voice vote, or if you'd like to ask me to read the roll, we could do a roll. Your preference.
Let's just do a voice vote.
So all of those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion carries.
Okay, now we have a chair and a vice chair. We're ready to go.
Congratulations, both of you. So I believe next on the agenda, with the chair's permission, I will move into the budget guiding principles and the North Clackamas equity lens. I would call people's attention to the budget document that you should have a copy of. Some of the guiding principles, strategic plan, and so forth is discussed in the budget message. So I won't go into too much detail, but I would like to call people's attention to the materials that we have in the budget document, the really excellent work that was done in preparing the budget guiding principles in the strategic points, the strategic plan, and then also on page 12 is a copy of North Clackamas's district equity policy. Equity is a cornerstone of not just the budget process, but how the district conducts business. That is all things that I would suggest everyone has, when you have an opportunity to read that. And also you will see that as in the budget message and in the budget development process as well. That is all I have on those for now. And so next on the agenda, I believe with the chair's permission, would be the budget present or the budget message presented by our superintendent, Dr. Shay James.
Good evening and thank you. I'll start out by saying thank you to all of you for being here and volunteering your time in this budget process. These are long hours and we are so grateful that you have shared your expertise with us around this. So each year, superintendent's budget message is read into the record. The budget message this year can be found immediately under the executive summary section in the budget notebook if you want to follow along. And the budget message is an executive summary and overview of our projected budget and outlook. And it's guided by the North Clackamas School District budget guiding principles, as you heard Matt mention, in addition to our North Clackamas School District strategic plan. And as you heard Matt share, that these guiding principles and strategic plan can be found starting on page 8 in the budget notebook if you would like to review that as well. So with that, I will read the budget message into the record, and I would suggest you sit back and relax as this will take a second as we read it verbatim. So thank you for your patience with that. 2022-23 year in review. The 2022-23 school year has been a year of strategic implementation and growth for our schools and our community. After a year of development with students, staff, and community, North Clackamas has enacted a new strategic plan, which will serve to guide organizational direction, planning, and resource allocation through 2027. The strategic plan has been developed with the following 4 points to support the North Clackamas mission of inspiring graduates who are empowered to act with courage in life and to strengthen local and global communities. Bullet 1, student experience and success. We prepare each student through engagement, effective instruction, empowerment, and skill development in order to succeed in life and career. Bullet 2, people and culture. We foster a welcoming and affirming environment through intentional, culturally inclusive practices where each student and employee is equipped to perform at their highest level. 3, family and community collaboration. We elevate student achievement and well-being through collaboration and active partnership with families and community. And our 4th point, resources and services. We maximize resources and services through strategic investment, innovative practices, and continuous improvement processes to strengthen the school community and advance student outcomes. These points indicate the focused priorities of our strategic direction. Student experience and success is a critical component and the cornerstone of guiding our academic and instructional practices. The 3 areas below demonstrate how North Clackamas School District translates strategic words to strategic action. Literacy. Focus has been placed on classroom-based assessments such as implementation of a benchmark assessment system that supports teachers in making targeted instructional decisions during their daily instruction. Implementation of new phonological awareness and phonics programs with an evaluation of the curriculum-based measures that will best assess student growth in this area. Instructional practices. North Clackamas is implementing uniform instructional practices to drive better results. These practices include encouraging collaborative learning to foster students' engagement in meaningful and productive discourse, providing descriptive feedback to build a continuous process of collecting evidence of student learning during instruction and using it to inform next steps, and developing rigorous lessons that have clear learning goals which clarify what success looks like. Mental health. North Clackamas recognizes that the need for mental health services have increased in the recent years. We have streamlined systems to ensure that the mental health and wellness of students and families are prioritized and met by quality professionals. Utilize available funding and partnerships to support learning spaces that address the needs of students and increase support for all adults to receive professional development and regulation skills. Our 2022-23 financial projections. As the 2022-23 school year draws to a close, North Clackamas continues to recover from student enrollment declines during the pandemic. Unlike many districts statewide, we welcomed an enrollment increase this year, which is encouraging. However, NCSD's total enrollment, which is the basis for much of our state funding, is not yet back to our pre-pandemic levels. Financially, we are projected to end the year with a general fund ending fund balance of $36.7 million or 13.12% of total resources, which is a decrease of 18% from the 2021-22 fiscal year. The 2022-23 general fund budget made investments in our school system while navigating changing teaching and learning conditions, staff recruitment and retention challenges, increased costs and operation resources such as gas, electricity, etc., in addition to facility needs brought on by the worldwide COVID-19 pandemic. Examples of those investments include an additional $125,000 for classified staff technology device replacement, $165,000 for VoIP, voice over internet protocol telephone technology replacement, an additional $140,000 in elementary playground replacement refurbishment, and $48,000 for live GPS global positioning system for school buses. Our district also saw $12.6 million invested through the Student Investment Account, SIA. during the 2022-23 school year. Those investments included counselors, social workers, health and wellness specialists, special education teachers, nursing services, community outreach facilitators, additional contracted mental health services, staff professional development, class size reduction, early literacy materials, and elementary teacher support at Title I schools. In addition, there were $17.6 million in additional COVID-19 relief funds made available through the Elementary and Secondary Emergency Relief ESSER 3 funds, including student computers, ventilation improvement, safety supplies, virtual online program staffing, contact tracing, and additional staffing needed to support unfinished learning during the pandemic. Also during the past year, the community continued to see investments in district facilities through the 2016 capital construction bond. All significant bond projects are completed. Remaining funds are being used to finish up bond projects such as the transportation mechanic shop and secure entry systems at high school, which were completed during the 22-23 school year. Budgeting guiding principles. As we set out to develop our 2023-24 district budget, we did so with alignment to our strategic plan and the following guiding principles. Compliance. Comply with all federal, state, and local legal requirements. Comply with the board policies and administrative regulations, including a minimum of 5% ending fund balance. Communication. Seek and utilize stakeholder and budget committee input in budget development. Promote transparent communication of information and decision-making during the budget development process. Decision-making. Make decisions for the long term. Consider the impact on staff and students. Invest in and utilize data in decision-making, and consider long-range revenues, expenditures, consequences, sustainability, and return on investment. State funding of K-12 education. Oregon's K-12 budget for the 2023 through 2025 biennium of $9.9 billion represents a modest increase in school funding and continues to show Oregon's commitment to students. This level of funding, however, falls short of the $10.3 billion that has been identified by the Oregon School Board Association as necessary to maintain current service levels across continued and unavoidable cost increase in all areas, most especially in payroll, benefits, utilities, and insurance coverage. General fund budget assumptions. Tonight, I'm presenting a budget for adoption based on a minimum $9.9 billion in state K-12 funding and an additional $23.1 million in local option levy revenue. The budget is based on the assumption that district enrollment will remain relatively flat in terms of weighted students compared to 2022-23. A general fund budget based on $9.9 billion in state revenue also incorporates the following: salary increases for each employee group, as well as step increase for licensed administrator groups. Increase for property and casualty insurance of 20%, which represents a trend across the industry. Enhancements to roof safety for OSHA, roof fall protection to enhance employee safety. Support of ongoing migration. So support of ongoing migration of student records from paper to secure electronic storage. An additional staff training in support of implementing de-escalation and anti-bias training. A reduction of 17.5 licensed FTE, 8.0 classified FTE, and 3.0 administrative FTE. Fund balances, revenue, and expenditures. The 2022-23 general fund ending fund balance is projected at $36.7 million, 13.12% of total general fund revenue. The 2023-24 general fund revenue projections are based on a K-12 state school fund of $9.9 billion, which is expected to generate approximately $208.9 million for North Clackamas schools. The 2023-24 projected local option levy revenue is $23.2 million. Total 2023-24 general fund revenue is projected at $278.1 million, approximately $208.9 million in local and state revenue, $23.2 million in local option revenue, $36.7 million from beginning fund balance, and $6.3 million in fees, grants, interest, and other sources. Total 2023-24 general fund expenditures are projected at $255.9 million, excluding fund balance. The 2023-24 general fund balance is projected to be $22.2 million, 7.99% of total general fund resources. It is essential to point out that this proposed budget will spend down the district's fund balance by a projected $11.8 million in 2023-24. This is not sustainable over time. Therefore, the state legislature must fund Oregon's public schools at a level that maintains current service levels. In addition to the general fund budget, we are preparing budgets for the student investment account at approximately $13.3 million and high school success at $4.6 million. The district will also have available remaining ESSER 3 funds. These funds have targeted use. For example, 20% of the ESSER 3 funds must be allocated to address students' unfinished learning. At this time, the district plans to use these funds to support summer learning and activity programs, virtual online program staffing for the 2023-24 school year, and learning support and acceleration strategies. Additional investments in technology, air circulation, virus mitigation strategies, and other post-pandemic related priorities are planned for implementation during the 2023-24 school year. Local option levy renewal. North Clackamas is grateful for the support shown by our community in the form of local option levy. Since it was approved by our voters in 2018, it has served as a fundamental support in pursuit of our ongoing mission by allowing the district to maintain class sizes, a full academic calendar, and funding teaching positions. In the 2022-23 school year, the levy continues to support approximately 180 teaching positions across the district, which represents approximately 1 out of 5 teaching positions in the district. The 2023-24 school year is the final year of the original levy. The district is developing a plan for seeking renewal of the levy in the fall of 2023. Looking to the future, we must continue examining and implementing financial systems and practices that will build long-term financial resiliency. We also must ensure we meet our district mission of preparing graduates who are inspired and empowered while providing a desirable workplace for recruiting and retaining Oregon's best public employees. To continue to meet our mission, we must continue implementation of the school district's new strategic plan, which will drive planning and resource allocation over the next 4 school years. Prioritize renewal of the local option levy in 2023 through community engagement. Continue renewing the district's long-term facility plans and the next phase of the capital construction needs. Plan and prepare for anticipated PERS and employee benefit rate increases in the future years. Remain committed to implementing instructional models that deliver high-quality instruction to our 16,500 plus students. Continue to plan for curriculum adoptions to meet the requirements of current state standards and ensure cultural relevance in instructional materials. Ensure staff and professional development addressing ongoing curriculum adoptions, quality instructional practices, equity, and students living with trauma. Ensure our students have necessary mental health supports by working with community and governmental government partners. Strategically invest resources targeting college and career development, dropout prevention, and career technical program expansion and development to increase graduation rates and post-secondary enrollment. Continue to use our equity focus to drive improvements. The district needs to continue to increase the diversity of staff and facilitate more student voice. Continue to advocate for school funding at Oregon's quality education model levels. As inflation increases are driving up expenditures, the legislature will need to hear school district voices as they allocate future funding. In closing, I know that I am working with a talented team in North Clackamas that is coalescing around common values of equity, relationships, integrity, empowerment, and care. We continue to move forward and meet challenges of educating our community's children in these uncertain times while continuing to look for ways to innovate and improve. We will continue to nurture and develop partnerships to ensure that all students succeed and continue to advocate at the state level for not only our children, but all Oregon students. While the levels of Oregon's current educational budget certainly limits feelings of optimism, I am always optimistic about the way the North Clackamas School District team will continue to deliver a strong educational program for each student. I want to thank our staff, students, parents, and community for their ongoing patience, grace, and support during this unprecedented time in our district, state, and nation. I also want to thank the Budget Committee for their review and input on the district's budget. I deeply appreciate the commitment of staff and all of those who work to help make a difference for our students and families. We will continue to partner with our community as we forge ahead. We are strongest when we walk together. Respectfully submitted, Shay James.
Thank you so much, Dr. James. And we are ahead of schedule, but I think next is back to Matt McCarr with the budget presentation.
Thank you. I will now share my screen. Bear with me a moment. Okay, can everyone see that? Wonderful. Thank you, Tiffany. Before I get started with the presentation and get into the document itself, I first wanted to say this is my first year involved in this position, working with this team in this district. To get to the point that we are with the proposed budget is the result of a lot of work throughout the district. It represents the work done by administrators to prepare for the year, and to get to the point of the document has involved a lot of really excellent work that I've been privileged to be a part of here in the business office by many talented professionals. We're fortunate to be joined by one of them tonight. I'll introduce Tammy Booth, our fiscal services manager, who was able to join us tonight. But I really, truly wanted to express my gratitude and my heartfelt appreciation for all the work done by everyone in the business office to prepare the budget, but also the document that you all should have. So with that said, I'll get into the presentation. This represents the proposed budget for North Clackamas for the 23-24 fiscal year. Everyone should have a copy of the book, or physically or electronically. The book has a lot of really excellent information as well as a lot of detail. We'll be going through some of that detail at a high level, pointing out variances and so forth from the previous year to the upcoming year momentarily, but just to kind of familiarize everyone with the contents of the book. We have the introductory section, the budget message that Dr. James read, which congratulations, that was quite a long message and excellent. We get into our guiding principles, strategic plan, equity policy, as well as the budget process overview and other information. Then we get into the financial section, where we have the breakdown of the funds and then also a bit of all funds information. As was mentioned in a previous presentation, but worth reviewing, the funds that the district has are the general fund, which contains everything in the district that's not required to be in a separate fund. Special revenue funds, which are typically most often grants and other things restricted for specified purposes. This also includes nutrition services, for example. Debt service fund, which has the payments of our general long-term debt, principal, and interest. Capital project funds, which account for the acquisition or construction of facilities. Our enterprise funds, which operate similar to private, or the parts of the district that operate most similarly to private businesses in service of other parts of the district. The internal service fund, services provided to other district functions, and then our trust and agency fund, which represents assets held in trust for others. There's also the information section, which has information on things like property tax enrollment, staffing, other kinds of public notices, and so forth. So with that, I will go next to the variances. This represents the variances that from our adopted budget of the 2022-23 year that we are in now to the budget that has been put together and proposed for the 23-24 school year. I will mention right off the bat, most of the variances that you will see presented here refer to the expenditures. On the revenue side, I will say there was a presentation earlier in the year, or earlier an informational meeting where we spoke about the state school fund that we were anticipating. That was 9.9 billion. At that presentation, we've continued with that estimate going forward. So in terms of the resources, there have not been any significant changes from that presentation. Another thing that you will see in the different variances is that a lot of the variances will relate back to personnel costs and other payroll costs in one way or another. On the general fund side, for instance, roughly 80% of our expenses are directly attributable to payroll, wages, and benefits. So with that, the first variance we have here is in our salaries from 22-23 to 23-24. This is attributable to changes we made in estimates for salary expenses in the upcoming year. The budget was built with an assumed 6% increase for licensed and administrative groups and 4.5% for classified staff. I should mention that classified staff received 6% in the current year. This year is the first year of their contract. I should also mention that reflected in here as well are the reductions that were made in 17.5 licensed FTE 8.0 classified FTE and 3.0 administrative FTE. This, of course, is one of the more difficult parts of the budget process, given the overall financial condition of the district and the overall forecast for the future. It is unfortunately necessary, but also I don't want to lose sight of the fact that these reductions are not just abstract numbers, but represent positions and people that we work with and we care for. And that is always one of the more difficult parts of a budget process when it is necessary. The next variance is associated payroll costs. Those went up by approximately 3.6 million, and those reflect a number of changes. This is the first year of a new PERS rate. That went up by about 1% across the board, which may not sound like much, and actually was somewhat less than initially forecast way back when, but it is a pretty substantial increase. We have also increased our estimates for health insurance costs, and also costs for implementation of paid leave Oregon. I should mention, particularly with health insurance costs, those are something that is seen across not just public employers, but employers in general, that the cost of providing health insurance for employees continues to rise. And as well, the costs that we are incurring for support of paid leave Oregon, that is also a program implemented statewide that is beginning this September and applies to all employers of a certain size, of which North Clackamas is one. The next variance is for purchased services. There we've assumed a 4% increase on all utilities, plus an increase in charter school payments and other contracted services. Supplies and materials has a variance of an increase of just over 1.3 million. And this is primarily from the initiation of a technology replacement cycle that will started at 1.5 million that will continue for the next several years. As and again, this is the beginning of a cycle of ongoing replacements to keep our technology current. You will see, though, that that was an increase of 1.5 million. The total variance is 1.3 million. That 1.5, it was offset somewhat by some other reductions in other materials and services. We've maintained the current level of capital outlay. Other objects has increased by almost $260,000, primarily from property liability insurance increases. We're also maintaining the current level of transfer to other funds for a number of purposes. Those are unchanged from the current year. And then the other use of funds or contingency is reduced by almost 2.6 million. And again, as was pointed out in the budget message, this is due to the anticipated revenues that we are receiving not keeping pace with our anticipated cost increases. Moving on to the next part of the variance report, you'll see there are a lot of numbers on this page. I'm not going to get into every one. What I've done in the description is provide a description for any variance over $100,000. A number of those you will see are due to increases in personnel costs, wages and benefits, as well as some other instances where there may be a change in FTE at a certain function level. Mitzi, it looks like you have a question.
Well, I just wondered if you could make it a little bigger or at least send it to us later.
Oh, I'll be happy to send it to you. I'll
Okay,
send
okay,
it to everyone later.
okay.
Not sure how to increase it for everyone.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
I will go through, so without going through every one, as you can see, a number of those, as I mentioned, are due to either increases in personnel costs or changes in FTE. I'll go through the, I'll call attention to the ones that fall outside of those descriptors or that are otherwise large. The first one is a change to, in total, elementary, middle, and high school programs of just over $4 million. That was in large part due to increased payroll costs, but also we moved the high school staff for the virtual online program. The high school staff, our virtual online program, also known as VOP, moved from ESSER to the general fund this year. I believe that was discussed in one of the previous budget presentations. And as the ESSER funds go away, VOP has been a very successful program for the district and one we are planning to maintain. Moving those funds from ESSER over to the general fund is one of the first steps in moving that fully from ESSER over to the general fund. Another variance outside of the personnel is an increase in charter school payments, largely a result of increased state school fund. There's also a variance of, oh, Michelle? You have a question, Michelle?
I think that was a mistake, Matt. So
Okay.
keep going.
Okay. Let's see, where was, there was a variance in function 2110, attendance and social work services. This is primarily due to a change in the cost structure for our SROs. As we return from the pandemic, and we've also opened up another high school, we've been able to true up what we anticipate the costs for those SROs would be. Although, again, here, this is partially offset by decreases in other areas as well. I'll also mention moving down a bit to function 2320, executive administration services. This is where you'll see on the function side, the increase that initiates a technology replacement cycle. Here it shows up as 1.4 million. And again, this is partially offset by some reductions in other areas. There's a variance of in function 2540, operation and maintenance of plant. This represents some increased ongoing costs, as well as the increase in property casualty insurance. I'll have to correct the wording there. Below that is a variance of 1.2 million for student transportation services, which represents additional personnel costs, as well as expected cost increases in insurance and other non-personnel cost areas. And moving down, in operating contingency, as I mentioned before, that is a reduction due to our anticipated revenues not keeping pace with anticipated cost increases. If there are no other questions here, there is an opportunity for committee members to ask questions or make comments later. But before I move to the next slide, if anyone had any questions now. Okay, moving to the next slide. So the first two slides that were presented by function and object were for the general fund. This represents kind of a top level of some of the other variances and changes that are seen in some of our other funds. Most significant of which is the special revenue fund. There we have a number of changes. The first is that student body funds have been reduced by 2 million, and this is to better align with actuals and kind of true up things with experience. The CARES and ESSER 2 and 3, we've reduced budgeted expenses there by 4.23 million. This reflects a couple different things. One of the changes was referenced on the earlier slide, moving staff, the high school staff, for the virtual online program to the general fund. It also reflects that the CARES Act funding and ESSER are drawing down. All funds for ESSER 3 must be expended by September of 2024. So this will actually be the last full year of any ESSER money being budgeted in that a full year will be reflected in our budget. SIA and Measure 98 were reduced by 1.2 million total. Again, this better aligns with actuals. Although I will mention there that those are amounts that have not been finalized at the state level. And so we opted to be conservative with the estimates that we made there. Again, to be conservative and then also to better align with the actuals that we've seen. What I've mostly mentioned so far are reductions, but those have been offset somewhat by an additional 1.8 million from other various state and federal sources. Moving on to the next item, or the next fund, I should say, our debt service fund. The increase there reflects a modest increase in overall debt payments. The capital project fund is reduced as we continue to spend down and close out the projects, the remaining projects from the 2017 bond. The community service fund, you will see some increases that reflect increased payroll costs, childcare FTE, childcare rental revenue. No significant changes to the internal service fund from the prior year. And in the trust and agency fund, we will see increased indirect charges to charter schools. Any questions or comments? Again, there'll be, we'll have an opportunity in a moment for any questions or comments from the budget committee members, but are there any now before we move along to the next agenda item? Mitzi.
Thank you. You said the debt service fund, there was an increase in overall debt payments by how much? And is that, I guess, what? Just tell me more about that if you have the information. If not,
the debt service payments are, we have schedules of those that plan out the payments over the next several dozens of years until as the payment, the debt instruments called for. The total increase in debt service the debt service funds
What's
was
happening?
an increase. It went from 54.2 million in the current year's adopted budget to 55.6 million. And again, those changes are not discretionary. Those represent what the debt schedules call for.
And I guess what I'm getting at is because we have passed that capital bond and some districts don't have a capital bond, that could increase our spending, correct? When compared to other districts?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Each district has its own unique circumstances. We are fortunate to have had a very successful bond program. And so that is reflected in the debt service payments that you see here.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for that. It's good for our community to know that. Thank you.
Yes. Okay, well, if there are no other questions or comments, I can stop sharing my screen. And I will yield the floor to our chair. I believe next on the agenda is a public comment. I don't know that anyone has signed up for that, but I believe we need to open the floor for any public comment.
Okay. So I have in the notes here, Matt, that you're to share any public comment that was made maybe in written form before this meeting started.
I have not received any public comment,
Okay.
and I don't believe anyone has indicated or requested to speak.
Okay. So then I will, just for the sake of order, open the floor for public comment. And seeing none, we will move on to any questions or comments from our committee. No one?
I believe Gina has her hand up.
Oh, okay. Gina.
Yes, thank you. I just have a quick question. Could you clarify a little bit for me on the Matt, where it's the charter school indirect charges? Can you talk a little bit about what that is? I'm not sure.
Pardon?
Yeah, just can you clarify what the charter school indirect charges increase is, please?
I would like to get a little more detail on that and provide a answer with a little more specifics to that.
Okay, thank you.
And also the direct causes of the difference from one year to the next.
Okay. Let's hear from Tori and then Angeline.
Thank you. Just quick question. Are the FTE reductions the same percentages per group?
I'm not sure I follow. Is it the reductions, are they the same percentage across the board?
Yeah, for each group. Like 3 FT for administrators, does that equal the same percentages of 15 educators of the population, et cetera?
I do not believe that is an exact percentage across each group.
Okay, thank you.
Wondering about the middle school Read 180 program, that it sounds like it's going away, and wondering if there's a replacement program, if it's the same cost, if we'll be looking at an increase or decrease in cost with that program removal.
I'm sorry, the middle school Read 180 program?
Read 180, it's a special education program in the middle schools.
Okay. I do not have that information at hand right now, but I would be happy to do research and provide a more detailed answer.
I'm happy to answer. And then I have Executive Director Tammy O'Neill on as well, so she can provide any additional information. I think we want to make it clear that Read 180 is a supplemental support and the program is not going away. So schools can use it. What we have sometimes used it in the past and how we have used it is what we're shifting, because we want to ensure that all of our special education or all of our students receiving special education services receive core instruction with their peers and grade level standards. We have high expectations for all of our students, and we want to be able to provide the supports that are needed, and we will continue to do so. And Tammy, if you want to add anything to that, I'm happy for you to do so.
No, I guess I would just add that there is a clear understanding of the need for a supplemental that works on the core foundational pieces of literacy. And so we know that we need to provide our students with grade level access to grade level content and standards. And for some of our students, they'll need supplemental attention to still to core to foundational skills in literacy. And so we'll make sure that those are provided equally in their schedule.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments or questions? All right. Oh, Julie.
I have a question. Yeah. Do we have any status on summer school yet?
We are still awaiting some information there. And still working on that. Dr. Dibley, did you want to add anything there?
Absolutely. Per the suggestion of the committee, the last time we met, first of all, I would like to update that we have not received any additional funding. So that is an unfortunate piece. We have been piecemealing and putting together as much as we can to ensure that we have certain funding available for the summer programs that we need to have. So we will be moving forward with summer programming for our seniors, for our high school credit recovery. We will be moving forward with Title I. We will be moving forward with our art camp, with our care programs. And per the suggestion of the group, we have finalized a letter that will be mailed to parents in the next day or so with the exact programs, along with a letter of advocacy that any of our constituents are able to send to their representatives to support funding. But because of how late in the game it is, we will outline for parents what will be available and what we can't fund.
Great, thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Dibley.
Okay, looks like that's it. Any other questions or comments? Seeing no more hands, I believe we can move on to recessing this meeting. Matt, did you have anything else that you wanted to add?
Nothing to add right now, other than to thank everyone for their participation in this budget development process. Thank you again.
Okay.
Can I just ask a quick, can I just ask a quick question? Oh, sorry. Someone's at my doorbell. We just because there was a lot to go through. If we have additional questions on the budget, can we email those in sometime? Just because I
absolutely.
haven't necessarily gotten through everything by tonight.
Oh, absolutely. It is there's a lot of information contained in the document. There's a lot of information in the presentation. It only follows that it may take time to go through the information and develop questions. Should you have any after you've gone through it, I would be more than happy to answer any questions you had.
Do I send those directly to you, Matt?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mitzi?
Okay, everyone.
I believe Mitzi has her hand up also.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you for all of this material, and Matt, for being your first year. You and your staff did a great job. It's amazing how you get that done, and the budget message and all the numbers that go into it. So thank you.
Thank you. As I mentioned, I am fortunate to work with a team of really excellent and dedicated professionals. It's all their work, and I'm fortunate to work with them. So thank you for that recognition.
Okay. All right, everybody. Well, that being said, I guess we'll go ahead and recess until our May 16th, 2023 budget meeting, which is also election day, by the way. So don't forget to vote.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good week.
You too.